I want to thank you guys for tuning in again. And I don't want to bury the lead on this, but I wanted to say it right now. Jason, last week might have been the best week of the show so far this season as far as the picks went. In picking all the games, you went 13-3, and along with that, you were 4-0 on what this show is known for, which is your take it to the bank picks.
Yeah, super happy about it. It was a great week. It was a fun week of football. Certain teams stepped up big and showed who they are, and other teams showed who they are in a negative fashion. And we learned a lot this week. And only 3 weeks of NFL football left in the regular season. Like, where has the season gone? Christmas is almost here. Hanukkah. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and we had a great week, and hopefully made all you guys a bunch of money. And let's do it again this week.
That sounds like a good plan. We don't want to give them a lump of coal. But that said, let's take a look at all of the games for Week 16 in the NFL. I'm asking Jason here why the writing is so small, and then I realized I'm now 49, and my eyes don't work as well as they used to. Let's jump right into it, guys. Once again, thank you for being here. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Welcome to all our new subscribers, and let's try and do it again for you this week like we did in Week 15. All right, guys, let's start off with Thursday Night Football. The Denver Broncos sitting at a surprising 9-5 record, at least surprising to us since the beginning of the season. We had them, I think, pegged at less than 5 wins, and now they're playing for a playoff spot here at the Los Angeles Chargers, who are still battling out at 8-6. The Chargers are going to get 2.5 points at home.
Yeah, Chargers favored by 2.5. They've had a bumpy couple weeks. Okay, they've lost 2 in a row at home. They had a nice little, lead in the beginning of the game, start on Sunday, and then it just went away, and they got worked over pretty good. I still believe in Jim Harbaugh on this team, and I think that when they get J.K. Dobbins back, which he should be back by hopefully Week 17, I think their running game is going to get back to normal. I do think they're improving at wide receiver. It's only going to keep getting better. The Broncos, on the other hand, they're looking solid as well. I mean, they had some situations where against Indianapolis that Indy probably could have been in a spot to win this game, but for some reason, Jonathan Taylor decided he was going to showboat and do once again. How many times are these guys going to do that? You would think coaches are going to be like, hey, if you drop the football before you're like well into the end zone, you're going to get fined, because he literally dropped the football, and he's not a showboater. Jonathan Taylor is not a Eagle guy, so it was weird that he did that. This year, take it to the bank picks. Last 19 taking the bank picks, I'm 15-4. That's a 79% win rate. And guess what? Take it to the bank. The Chargers are going to cover the 2.5. Don't be scared. I know people are down in the Chargers, and the public's going to be all over Denver in this one. But my lion eyes are going to tell you right now that the Chargers get it done at home, and they win convincingly by 7+ points without a doubt. Take the Chargers to the bank all day long. Merry Christmas. Boom.
Let's move to an interesting mix, for lack of another better phrase, for the 10 a.m. games this Sunday. We're going to start off with a game. We have the 9-5 Houston Texans on the road visiting the at-home Kansas City Chiefs, possibly with Taylor Swift in attendance, if anybody still cares. The Chiefs, as we know, are 13-1, but in this situation, there's some uncertainty over Mr. Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs are actually the underdogs here. The Texans are favored by 1 point on the road at the 13-1 Chiefs.
This is an interesting game. I mean, the Texans, it's huge for them to keep, the division's locked up. It's theirs. They want to win this game, obviously, as most teams do. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes goes down with his ankle injury. How serious is it? We'll see. I mean, Kelsey was dramatic last year, acting like he was done for the year after that injury, and he went back in the same game. Patrick Mahomes, this game, got literally carried off by 2 people. In a game earlier this year, and he ended up not missing a play. A lot of people are already making excuses for the Chiefs because of this 3 games in 11 days. Assuming every team plays on a Sunday, and then they play the following Sunday, and then there's teams that play a Thursday after that. It happens. This does happen. Now, you're making a big deal because it's a Wednesday, but guess what? They're playing a Saturday. So Sunday to Thursday is mathematically the same as Saturday to Wednesday last time I checked. So I don't want to hear any whining and complaining from Chiefs fans, or Patrick Mahomes is already whining about it. And it's like, stop it. Don't want excuses. You guys should have lost so many games this year. And I don't have a bias. I don't hide that I dislike the Chiefs all around. But stop whining. And then someone else is making a big deal. Patrick Mahomes is having a great year this year. He's got 7 fourth quarter comeback wins. Okay. What does that mean? That just means he was a big loser the first 3 quarters. Okay. The reason why other teams don't have that kind of stat is because good quarterbacks lead going into the fourth quarter. They don't have to come from behind. And let's be real, a lot of these wins came because of the refs helped them out. I'm done with my soapbox. Bottom line, Patrick Mahomes shouldn't play unless his ego gets the best of him and Andy Reid doesn't sit him down, because if he does play, it's going to put him in doubt to play that Wednesday Christmas game against Pittsburgh, which is probably more important for tiebreaker purposes. If he does play, it will make a difference. Take the Texans, -1 favored in Kansas City. Texans are going to get it done, get the W, and it's going to be the first of 3 losses in a row for the Kansas City Chiefs. Boom.
Next one we have is probably one of the, if I'm wrong, correct me, one of the bigger matchups in the morning. The 10-4 Pittsburgh Steelers are on the road at the 9-5 Baltimore Ravens. That's kind of funny, actually. I know that Baltimore's lost some games they should have won, but actually to see them with less than 10 wins, I'm actually surprised. Now that I just read out loud, it kind of just dawned on me. But in this one, against the Steelers, Ravens are 6-point favorites at home.
Yeah, it means everything. I mean, they're fighting for the division still. The Steelers win this one, they win the division. That's simple as that. They win the division, it's all over. The Ravens win, and they're tied, and then it becomes a tiebreaker thing, right? The Steelers lost TJ Watt last week. He got injured, and Mike Tomlin says he's hopeful he can go, but I think that's coach speak. I think they're not going to risk TJ Watt not being available later in the season, and I think this is it's an important game. But what's more important, when really it essentially just means, maybe one home game, because they're not doing any better than a 3 seed, likely. It's just a reality that they should probably sit down TJ Watt. George Pickens, who's had a hamstring injury that was pretty serious. He's missed the last couple weeks. He's questionable as well. I think they're going to have the same caution for him as well, thinking the big picture of the playoffs, right? They can't win a Super Bowl with this game, but they can sure put themselves in a bad spot come playoff time. All that tied into the fact that the Ravens seem to be firing on all cylinders. They didn't even need Derrick Henry to come up big this last week, which obviously they played the Giants. So, I mean, I could have played running back for the Ravens against the Giants, but
we'll get to the Giants, trust me. I have some choice words for the Giants this year.
But bottom line, the Ravens at home, 6 points. Normally, I would say is too many points for this division battle, especially against a team that arguably has a better record than you. And Pittsburgh beat Baltimore the first time around. In this case, no. I think that between TJ Watt missing and they're a little bit hampered at wide receiver still, the Ravens at home in a very important win. Take it to the bank. Take the Baltimore Ravens, -6 to cover and get it done. Boom.
Next one, I'm trying to think of something about this game because it's a weird one. Cleveland Browns at 3-11 are on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals, who are at 6-8. The Bengals are 7.5-point favorites at home, but the Bengals have a defense like a leaky sieve. So if Jameis Winston can stop throwing 3 interceptions a game, I mean, is this going to be a big scoring game, or can the Bengals actually cover basically 8 points?
I mean, this game is setting up for a classic Jameis Winston game that he's going to have 530 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he's going to also have 3 interceptions for 2 pick sixes. And the Browns lose by 10. But we'll see. Bengals, once again, best 6-8 all-time team. Okay, they are just that good. Joe Burrow is disgusted. On the sideline, there's a soundbite where he basically said, "This is freaking embarrassing." And he's talking about his defense. They're terrible. Seriously, I'm 48 years old. They're going to call me up. It's sad because the Bengals aren't going to be in the playoffs. It takes a miracle for the Bengals to get in the playoffs at this point. A lot of stuff has to happen. But I think they're going to play hard this week because they do play Denver next week, which is one of the teams they got to somehow beat and get ahead of for a playoff spot, okay? Or the Chargers. So that being said, the Bengals by 7.5 points. They should cover this easily. I mean, they really should. They're in Cincinnati. The Browns are banged up. Half points a little bit tricky, but take the Bengals to cover 7.5 at home. They're going to play hard this week again. Chargers Broncos play each other, so that's a good thing for them because both teams, one of them's got to lose. Both the Bengals -7.5. They're going to be playing hard this week and see what happens. Hey, but Green Bay, they still have a shot to win the number 1 seed. What it takes is Minnesota and Detroit lose their next two, and when they play each other, they tie. Green Bay wins out.
Well, let's jump right to one game potentially altering that scenario. The next game is the Detroit Lions with their 12-2 record. They are 6.5-point favorites on the road at the soon-to-be fire-sailing once again Chicago Bears and their 4-10 record.
You remember when the Bears were 4-2 and they were calling out for Super Bowl and all this great stuff? Remember that? The Bears are 4-2. Listen to it. 4-2. What are the Bears right now, Michael?
I believe that's 4-10 again.
4-10. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. All right. Anyway, Lions. They have their own problems. They lost 3 defensive players and David Montgomery for the year, most likely. That's not good. David Montgomery's their workhorse. Jahmyr Gibbs is not meant to be an every down back, every series back. Their 1-2 punch there was their bread and butter. And lucky for them, Jared Goff has been playing so good passing the ball, which is not always the case, especially when he's not at home. But he's been passing really well. But usually the 1-2 punch of Gibbs and Montgomery make it so that there's not that kind of pressure at Jared Goff, and that's where he excels. Now, no Montgomery, they're going to need Jared Goff to step up because Jahmyr Gibbs, if he's having to put, get that much of more of a workload, I fear that injury could be on the horizon for him as well, unfortunately. Defensively, they're in rough shape. But now I heard some news on the way over here on the radio that Aiden Hutchinson is on track to be ready to play if the Lions make the Super Bowl. That's a big if. Have a good shot of it, but that's not going to help them on the way to the Super Bowl. And this team's defense, as we saw against Green Bay and Buffalo, is bad. Like, literally bad. I don't know if Dan Campbell is going to punt the rest of the year. Bottom line, he might just not punt the rest of the year. It could be 4th and 5 on their own 15. He might go for it. That being said, the Bears, it's a fire sale over there. Like Michael said, I mean, it's all the coaches, it's every man for themselves. The other coaches are already interviewing for other teams and coaches, and they're checked out. They're in Chicago, which is going to be a lot of booze, a lot of, that stadium's probably going to be empty by midway through the third quarter. It's going to be ugly. It should be, because Dan Campbell has a pretty big chip after this loss, and I'm sure he's going to try to, just pummel the Bears. That being said, the line's 6.5 only, and I understand it's a division battle in Chicago, but if you watch Chicago play last night, they look terrible. The offense could do nothing for most of the game. Now, granted, against Detroit, they should be able to do a little something, but their defense won't be able to hold Detroit down. I'm going to take the Lions 6.5. You may just want to lay off this one, but Lions my 6.5 because I cannot, in good conscience, suggest taking the Bears plus 6.5. That being said, it could possibly happen. The Lions win by 6 exactly or 3, but leave the game alone. Probably don't bet it.
Not as much on the line for this one as maybe the Panthers are trying to increase their odds of a better draft pick. The Arizona Cardinals at an even 7-7 are 4-point favorites on the road at the Carolina Panthers with their 3-1 record. 3-11 record. They'd love to be 3-1. Somehow in week 16, but coming in this next week.
So the Panthers were at home favored for the first time in like 34 games against the Cowboys this last week, and people were on them. But yours truly took who? The Cowboys plus 2.5. It was pretty wild, and they rolled them pretty good. That's not going to happen here. The Cardinals 7-7 still vying for a hopeful division chance. It's the Cardinals -4 on the road are going to get it done. They're going to cover the spread, take the Cardinals.
Here's our next big divisional matchup with playoff implications and seeding and all that good stuff. Philadelphia Eagles, with a 12-2 record, are on the road at the Washington Commanders. Again, another surprising team this year, 9-5. Eagles are 3-point favorites at the Commanders, and this is important for Philadelphia trying to lock up the division and for the Commanders and their seeding in the playoffs. And still making the playoffs, because there's always a chance they could slip.
The Eagles are trying to keep that number 1 spot to get the bye. That's important. Jalen Hurts, I guess he's been playing with a broken finger on his non-throwing hand the last couple weeks, and he looked good last week. He did. Saquon Barkley didn't do much, and they didn't need him to.
But Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are friends again.
Yeah,
I saw from that celebration.
At least, they appear to have patched up, or at least for this game. I mean, A.J. Brown 8, he got a touchdown, almost 10 receptions, 100-plus yards. So all's well in Philly as of right now. And now Philly's going to play the Commanders, who literally crushed us. One of our 3 only losses out of 16 games because they were up 14-0 early against the Saints with their like 3rd quarterback and a dream and no receivers, and somehow played so bad the second half. And due to a controversy where the NFL is catching heat, I heard there's a class action lawsuit against the NFL because New Orleans went down and made that last play with like, I don't know, 13 seconds, whatever it was left. The clock person stopped the clock and it never should have got stopped. And he stopped it for 4 seconds. They got the snap off with 3 seconds left, but they stopped the clock for 4, which tells you math, conventional wisdom, game would have been over, right? Now, here's the problem. The NFL's partnered with like so many betting sites. Sports gambling used to be a dirty word for all sports, league, NFL, whatnot. That's why they were never going to put a team in Vegas. And now you got the NFL sponsoring and partnering with these gambling sites. The problem that lies here in the conflict of interest is that, guess what? Almost all the money was on Washington, -7, and some of it was -6, right? Depending on where you got the line at. So begs the question, is it okay for a ref to make that mistake? Nowadays, when a lot of the NFL's values and these team salaries, player salaries are based on fans that are doing what? Gambling, just like a stock market situation. Okay, they're gambling, they're putting their money on what they, and it's promoted. So can you afford to make this kind of mistake? This is like kind of like a SEC trading violation in a way, like literally.
It doesn't look good. The optics, there's always something we can manipulate numbers and say, well, this could have changed because of this bet and Vegas wanted to cover, but it does. We had that controversy last year with teams going for a kick when it didn't matter to get 3 points and still lose by 6 with 30 seconds left in the game, but it screws up the spread. And you can say, oh, the guy was practicing a kick in week 2. Well, shouldn't your quarterback be practicing throwing touchdowns more than practicing kicks? But yeah, the optics definitely don't look great.
I mean, when a broker makes a mistake and does some sort of insider trading violation or does something else that they made a mistake on, they can't just be, oh, he made a mistake, we recognize it. No, they're going to get spanked, right? It's going to be a fine. It's going to be in trouble, maybe jail sometimes. So this, you can't just dismiss it as, oh, well, the ref stopped it. It was a mistake. So sorry. Because millions and millions of dollars change hands because of it. And last time I checked, that's not legal in this country. So enough on that, but that's the gambling aspect of this thing. And since we're a gambling channel, we're going to talk about it. That being said, the Eagles fly, Eagles fly. They're going to keep on winning. They're going to keep the streak going. They're going to get the W. I just feel like the Commanders, they're having a great year. Jane Daniels looks outstanding. This team is gelling well. Their coach is, making them believers. But this Eagles team they're on a one-way track to try to get that number 1 seed, and they're not going to be stopped. Eagles -3. Boom.
Here's 2 teams given big old lumps of coal. One for like the last decade of my life. The New York Giants, with their whopping 2-12 record. I would like to make a request to the New York Mets that instead of paying $765 million to one player, for Juan DeSoto, can you buy the Giants some players so there can be some joy in New York for some team? Because what could $765 million buy us for players?
But they gave Daniel Jones that monster contract, so they tried to buy a player. He just was the wrong player, Michael.
Very, very true.
But they sure didn't want to pay Saquon Barkley. Oops.
There's no words for that decision. But explain how bad these teams are that the Falcons at home with their 7-7 record against the Giants, 10-point favorites.
I mean, what has the Falcons done in the last 4 or 5 weeks to earn a double-digit favorite line? Okay, I mean, that tells you just how bad the Giants are, because Kirk Cousins, I think, threw his first touchdown in 3 or 4 games. He had 0 touchdowns, 8 or 9 or 10. Too many interceptions the last couple weeks.
I think it was 0-7 or 0-8.
0-8 for sure, but it's at least that. That was the minimum it was. I mean, Atlanta's been terrible on defense. Kirk Cousins has been absolutely god-awful. I've bought into this Atlanta team. I've picked them in my Circa Millions the last couple weeks. This team has the intangibles and the potential, but Kirk Cousins is looking good. Bijan Robinson, he's solid, right? And he's getting better and better every game. Only the Giants can mess up and somehow try to win a game when they can get, a the top 2 draft pick pretty much locked up. Bottom line, Giants are terrible. Falcons are at home. They must need the win because a wild card's not looking so good for them right now. So they got to win the division. They're a game out. Falcons get the win and they're going to get the cover. I mean, because the Giants are just that bad, probably don't bet this game, okay? Because the Falcons don't deserve a 10-point favorite, but I'm sure to shit not taking the Giants at plus 10. I don't feel comfortable with that either because really if Kirk Cousins gets his head out of his butt, they should win this game. They should boat race the Giants and win by 21 plus. I think that's what's going to happen. Don't bet it. Take the Falcons minus 10 though if you must, and they'll get it done and get another W and keep their playoff hopes alive.
And still in the morning games, the Tennessee Titans at 3-11 at the Indianapolis Colts at 6-8. Colts are 4-point favorites, and is the Will Levis experiment over?
Last week's game, his ex-girlfriend, fiance, whatever she was, she dumped him. She was in attendance during that debacle.
Are you serious?
Yes,
I didn't hear
with
that.
her girlfriend. So,
that's
she dumped him basically for I think like a country singer or something. I don't know. It was like a damn song. Colts are on life support, but they're at home this game. They're 4-point favorites. The Colts should get it done as long as Jonathan Taylor doesn't want to fumble through the end zone. I mean, it's all a good start. Anthony Richardson looks a little bit better. They should have actually went up more than double digits on the Broncos if he would have not have dropped that ball, and who knows what the landscape of the game would have been at that point. But for this sake of this game, the Colts get it done. They're going to cover the 4 points, and the Titans are going to continue living in regret for firing their coach from last year, Vrabel, because he was not the problem. It's probably this franchise and the guy who's a quarterback.
Last 10 a.m. game, the Los Angeles Rams at 8-6 at the New York Jets 4-10. Rams are 3-point favorites on the road. The Jets come off a win, but the Jets are still a mess. This is more let's sell tickets and maybe see the end of Aaron Rodgers' career.
Finally, Aaron Rodgers came through. I picked him on Circa Millions. I picked him last week on the podcast. I loved them. I said they were going to win this game. It started looking pretty bleak against Jacksonville. And but then all of a sudden, it was old school Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams. He got Davante Adams got his 100th touchdown catch from Aaron Rodgers, and he had a big fantasy game. For all you guys in the fantasy playoffs last week, I'm going to guess that the Davante owners might have got a W just on his back of his play. Jets-Rams. Now, the Rams, who looked absolutely terrible in offense last week against the Niners, that game was a complete shit show. We got players walking off the field, not wanting to play. Only one, and for the Niners. And that offense was so bad. How did they not manage to get a touchdown pretty much in that game? And both defenses aren't particularly great this year. I mean, it was sprinkling, a little bit of rain, a little San Francisco rain, but yet they look terrible on offense, both sides. Now you got the Jets at home against the Rams, who I still believe in this offense. Puka and Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp gets held to 0 points. How does Cooper Kupp not get one 4-yard route for a catch? Weird stuff going on last week in that game. But this game, the Rams, I'm not riding with the Jets. I'm going to ride with the Rams -3 on the road. They're traveling West Coast to East Coast. It's a little bit of a tough spot. They are also back-to-back road games, but if you want to call San Francisco a road game for the LA Chargers, whatever. But it is back-to-back road games for the Rams. But in spite of that, it's still the Jets. The Jets would be smart just to lose the last couple games and get a decent draft pick to lick their wounds when they cut Aaron Rodgers and they take a big cap hit for next year. Rams -3. We'll get it done. Boom.
We have one game starting at 1:05 p.m. this Sunday, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. But the 7 in a row now that they've won. Some of them close, some of them better than that. This past game was a kind of mixed bag. Sam Darnold started off good, then slumped, and then came up big. So the Vikings are 3-point favorites on the road at the Seattle Seahawks, who are 8-6. And Geno Smith is hurt or questionable.
He's questionable. I don't know if he's going to be good to go. At the beginning of the year, especially when J.J. McCarthy went down, Sam Darnold's the new starter. Most people didn't peg this team for more than 4 or 5 wins. 6 would have been excelling, right? They're 12-2. The Minnesota Vikings control their destiny. If they win out, they are the number 1 seed. That's insane. The Minnesota Vikings, you heard this first. They win out, they're the number 1 seed.
We need to find a prop bet though. Is how will the Vikings blow it? Will it be a missed 17-yard field goal? Will it be a fumble out the end zone? Or will it be some other magic Vikings mistake that has yet to occur in the history of Vikings football?
Stay tuned, because Sam Darnold is the quarterback. So I need all of it's on the table. All of it's on the table. The Seahawks, my Packers dominated the Seahawks last week, okay? Geno Smith went out, but granted, he wasn't playing great either way. He's questionable this week. They're going to need him because that backup quarterback, you might as well be the quarterback for Seattle this week. Same difference. Can you hand a ball off, Mike?
Oh, I can't even. I can't even.
If you can hand a ball off to Zach Charbonnet, you can be their quarterback, because that's about all that quarterback was able to do once he got in the game. This game, keep an eye out on the injury. If Geno Smith is not only playing, but he's doing good physically, which, so basically wait on this game until probably Sunday morning and get a pretty good, if you can wait to bet it, if you're going to bet it, and see where Geno Smith is, because without him, this game seems pretty easy, but with him, it gets a little bit trickier. That being said, right now, it's a Tuesday afternoon. I can only do with what I have in front of me, and that is to take the Minnesota Vikings -3 to cover, because there's no way I'm going to go the other direction, not knowing that Geno Smith is even going to play. And Minnesota obviously is playing really well on their own merit as well. Minnesota should get it done, barring a Minnesota Vikings standard bed shitting moment. Take the Vikings -3. Boom.
And let's hop on 3 games starting at 125. Maybe the only kind of interesting one is the New England Patriots with their 3-11 record. They are who we thought they were going to be this season. Even starting off 1-0 surprised us. At the Buffalo Bills, 11-3. They are 14-point favorites. That is the biggest spread of the weekend.
Who would have thought the Patriots were going to be the writing on the wall for the Bengals season? The Patriots, who are 3-11, beat the Bengals, and little did we know it was a foreshadowing of the Bengals' entire year. But it was not a foreshadowing of the Patriots' year, because they've only won 2 games out of the last 13. This will be no different. The Bills, it's not a matter whether or not the Bills are going to win. It's going to be like by how much, right? That's pretty no-brainer. They got a lot of anger and built up angst against the Patriot organization after Tom Brady just beat the brakes off the Bills most years. I don't usually like 14-point spreads in most situations, but at home, the Bills might literally pitch a shutout, although the Bills defense has had their own troubles, right? I mean, the Bills last couple weeks giving up crazy points to the Rams, crazy points to Detroit. Will their defense step up? I don't know, but it'll be good enough for the Patriots, and I'm thinking the Bills win somewhere in the neighborhood of like 42-13. So I'm calling it Bills cover -14. Boom.
All right, next game, let's call it the Lost Season Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers at 6-8. They are effectively done. At the Miami Dolphins, who also at 6-8 are effectively done. And the Super Bowl champion 49ers on the road are the dogs of the Dolphins. Dolphins are 1-point favorites.
You got a coin? Because I'm going to flip a coin in this one. Because
this is a coin toss game, absolutely.
So Mercury Morris, may he rest in peace, and all the other Dolphins teams, they popped their bottle over their undefeated season and Super Bowl victory and their perfect season back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, okay? They need to start trying to think about a winning culture now. Those old heads need to talk to the young team, because the Dolphins, how about this? When's the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game? I mean, playoffs. So bottom line is instead of worried about 1970s cork and bottles and stuff like that, worry about now, because the Dolphins with that team and that offense are a failure. There's no other way to cut it. This team should be able to be in the playoffs, but they're a failed team, and they need to rework something. I think maybe their coach needs to be fired. I don't know if he's the guy, he's the right answer. I don't know if 2 is the answer, but something's not right, because they got talent at running back, they got a couple really good receivers, but they got some weak spots on defense and a lack of other deficiency. That being said, the Niners got their huge problems. They literally put Devondre Campbell on suspension because he literally in the third quarter said, "Coach, I don't want to play anymore." That's the kind of culture that is happening in San Francisco, which has a rich history of winning, as we know, but that ended shortly after the 90s. And something's going on there, that there's that kind of problem going on in the locker room, and it's a bigger problem than just one player. Deebo Samuels is playing terrible. Brock Purdy, I wouldn't want to be the Niners and George Lynch. He's got to decide what he wants to do with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's going to be looking for $60 million a year, and he hasn't been playing great, but guess what? There's nothing else out there. They're going to pay him. The Niners are going to try to get the biggest discount possible, but it's not going to happen. They're going to have to pay him is $60 million. I can guarantee you that. And their window may be closed anyway. Even with paying Brock Purdy, this team's window may have closed for the 49ers. That being said, this game, dumpster fire. I'm going to take the Dolphins because they're at home. I don't think either team has much heart left in this situation. Both teams know they're pretty much done. Both teams are frustrated. Which team's going to be less frustrated is going to come down to who's going to play harder. I don't know. I'm not in these guys' heads. Don't bet this game. Take the Dolphins -1 cover just because.
It's the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3-11, at the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-12. And the Raiders are 1-point favorite. So how bad are you if you're a 1-point underdog to the Raiders?
The Raiders' 2-12 record does not even begin to scrape the surface of how bad this team is and what a joke they are. Okay, they need to retool everything. They need to pretty much. Tom Brady's not the GM, but they need to give him the power to retool this team. Whatever culture is going on there in Raiderland, it doesn't exist. I mean, they have another player that got a drunk driving, and they found his car dangling over a cliff, essentially, whatever it was, half over like some sort of like embankment, and he was passed out unresponsive. Guys, call me up. Raider players, call me up anytime you want. I'll pick you up. I'll take you wherever you need to go. Give me a few bucks. You guys have all this money in the world. Take an Uber. This Raider culture seems to tolerate this, and it keeps happening because these guys keep messing up. And I don't know what it is, but this Raider culture needs to change big time in Vegas, and I don't see any signs of it. So guess what? I'm not taking the Raiders this game. The Jaguars are just as bad, but they might have a little more heart than the Raiders because the Raiders are gutless. Take the Jaguars +1. Don't bet this game either because it's stupid. But Jacksonville +1 because the Raiders are definitely in tank mode, hoping that Deion Sanders' kid is going to be the answer to the #1 pick, which I don't know if he is going to be, but Jags +1. No one cares. Don't watch the game. You're better off going to the dentist.
All right, the 5:20 p.m. game this evening features the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8-6 and the Dallas Cowboys with the inverse of a 6-8 record and once again a failed season. Great consistency from the Dallas Cowboys. Not even bothering getting to the playoffs to lose. They're just losing it early, going on vacation. The Buccaneers are 4-point favorites on the road.
Tampa Bay's playing good. Baker Mayfield's having the best season of his career by far.
I'm petitioning for the damn pizza commercial to come back. The poor guy has not had a commercial for 2 or 3 years after having to watch that all the time at the sports book. Give the man $1. Do something.
I mean, the Cowboys are at home, and Cowboys have won 3 out of 4, right? And their only game they lost in that 4 was the Bengals by like 7 or whatever it was. So the Cowboys are playing some good football. They're at home. They're catching 4 points. They got some sort of spirit they're playing for. Cooper Rush trying to play for a backup role somewhere. I don't know, but CeeDee Lamb, these guys, seem to be playing fairly hard. Mike McCarthy's trying to play for his coaching life. That being said, the Buccaneers 8-6. The reason why they're 8-6 and a little bit above 500 is because they played mediocre for a good chunk of the year. Okay, and they've had their problems. The Cowboys may not win this game, but I think they can cover the 4 points with a possibility for an upset in this spot. To set the table for Atlanta and the Buccaneers to have the same record and come down to the last 2 weeks. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. We're going to take the Cowboys +4. Okay, we're going to take the 4 points all day long at home. I'll take the home dogs in this spot. The Cowboys have enough pride that they want to win at home, and they're just getting sick of getting kicked around and being the butt of jokes, okay? That's usually reserved for the Raiders, Bears. So the Cowboys, they're used to this time of year choking, but not usually as bad as they have the whole season. So it's going to be in reverse this year, and the Cowboys are going to finish strong, but go nowhere. Cowboys +4. Boom.
Last game before Christmas. Monday Night Football, 5:15. New Orleans Saints, 5-9. At the Green Bay Packers, 10-4. They get the second biggest spread of the week as of Tuesday's recording. The Packers have a 13.5 point favorite.
Everyone, tune in on Monday night. It's a preview to the future team going to the Super Bowl. Okay, I'm calling it now. The Green Bay Packers will be going to the Super Bowl this year. The Saints are in rough shape. Alvin Kamara got banged up. They're on like their third string quarterback, whatever. I don't think Derek Carr will play or should play. And if he does play, he's been terrible as well. They're in Lambeau. It's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be cold. They're going to have the snow hill going. People are going to be insane because in Green Bay, they love their football. They love their Packers. They're going to cover the spread. Green Bay is on a destiny. They've gotten a showcase now for the 4th week in a row coming up, being nationally televised games. They should have beat Detroit. They whipped on Seattle in Seattle. And guess what? Jordan Love hasn't made any mistakes, knock on wood, in the last 4 weeks or so. He's played solid, but he hasn't even played his best yet. And this team, too many weapons on offense. Josh Jacobs has been amazing. And if not for Saquon Barkley, he would be the talk of the year. I mean, he's unbelievable. And this defense, they're getting healthier. Jair Alexander, their second best defensive player, has been out, I think, the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's probably due back this week. I think this team is hungry. They're young. They believe. And nobody wants to play these guys in the playoffs. Yes, I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan, but I'm saying this from logical standpoint. The Green Bay Packers, minus 13.5. It's a lot of points. They should cover it. They should be able to run it up, win by, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 to 24 points. Boom.
All right, before you tune out, quick programming note for next week. Because of the Christmas Eve and Christmas holidays, and Hanukkah starts on the 25th as well, we're going to be doing the show next week for Week 17 on Monday. So we'll give you all the picks for Week 17 that evening, barring any oddities in the Monday night game that could affect those teams' pick. We'll update it, of course, and we thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you like and subscribing, even if you're here to rag on Jason for being a complete Chiefs hater or a complete Green Bay Packer homer. He takes the time to respond to every comment, even the unfavorable ones, and we try and take the information you guys give us and use them in future programming notes and stuff.
Yeah, guys, looking forward to seasons coming to an end. Happy holidays to everyone as well. And just looking forward to these last 3 weeks to see how they shake out and then begin the playoff run. Until then, take it to the bank. Boom.